Sarah Baker held her 3-year-old son William tightly to her heart as the train eased to a stop. The trip from Philadelphia had been exhausting and tough, but they had finally reached Cottonwood Springs. The quaint Montana village would mark their fresh start. At least, that was Sarah's hope during the countless miles of rails left behind. "Final stop, Cottonwood Springs," shouted the conductor, his voice echoing through the carriage. Sarah collected their sparse possessions a single, valiseed a modest chest holding all their worldly goods. William fussed against her shoulder, weary and famished from the long travel. "It's fine, my darling," she murmured, brushing a kiss on his golden locks. "We're about to meet Mr. Pearson. Recall the kind gentleman whose letters I've shared with you for 6 months." Sarah had exchanged letters with Elijah Pearson, a shop owner in Cottonwood Springs who had placed an ad for a bride in the matrimonial paper. His messages were warm and considerate, detailing his thriving mercantile and cozy home. Sarah had taken care to mention William in her second letter, though now she wondered if she'd been explicit enough about having a son. The platform buzzed with movement as Sarah stepped off the train, William perched in her hip. She searched the throng for almond-fitting Elijah's description: tall, with light brown hair and a neatly clipped beard. A finely dressed man approached, his expression curious. "Miss Baker," Sarah nodded, her pulse quickening with anxiety. "Yes, I'm Sarah Baker, and this is William." The man's eyes widened, locking on the boy. "I'm Harold Green, Mr. Pearson's associate. He sent me to fetch you," but he paused, clearing his throat awkwardly. "There seems to be a mix-up." Sarah's heart sank. "Mix-up? Mr. Pearson didn't know I had a son," Harold explained, his tone softening. He was clear about wanting a fresh start with a new wife. "No complications." The words struck like a blow. Sarah stiffened her posture. "I wrote about William in my letters." Harold shrugged, already stepping back. "Perhaps, but Elijah is firm on this. I'm sorry you traveled so far for nothing. Farewell, Miss Baker." And with that, he vanished into the crowd, leaving Sarah alone with William and their chest. The station's clamor continued, family swooning, workers unloading freight while Sarah stood still, reality crashing around her. "Mama," William tapped her cheek with atony hand. "Where we going?" Sarah fought back tears. "I'm not sure yet, sweetheart." "Pardon me, ma'am, you seem like you could do some help." The deep voice came from behind. Sarah turned to see a tall man watching her, concern in his dark eyes. He wore a black Stetson hat and a dusty coat that hinted at long days riding. Sarah began, unsure how to share her plight without admitting the sting of being rejected. "Unseen, I'm Nathan Hayes," the man said, tipping his hat lightly. "I couldn't help overhearing. Seems you're in a tough spot." Sarah nodded, holding William tighter. "I'm Sarah Baker. This is my son, William." Nathan smiled at the boy, who gazed at him gravely from his mother's arms. "Pleased to meet you both. There's a good hotel nearby. Let me assist you in getting settled while you plan your next move." "That's generous, but my funds are limited," Sarah confessed. The journey west had drained her savings. Nathan thought for a moment. "As it happens, I need someone to manage things at my ranch. My list housekeeper left to care for her sick mother back east. It's honest work, with lodging and meals included." Hope sparked in Sarah's chest. "You wouldn't mind, William. Oakidge Ranch is vast," Nathan said with a kind smile. "Plenty of space for a young boy." By the time they arrived at Oakidge Ranch after a dusty wagon ride, Sarah learned that Nathan Hayes owned one of the largest cattle operations in the region. The main house was a sprawling 2-story building with a broad porch encircling it. Behind it stood a barn, bunkhouse, and various outbuildings forming the ranch headquarters. "Welcome to Oakidge," Nathan said, helping Zara and William down from the wagon. The elderly cook, Mrs. Porter, showed Sarah to a cozy room with a small adjoining bedroom idle for William. After settling in, Sarah began her duties overseeing the household. The work was demanding, but fulfilling, and William flourished in the ranch's open spaces, quickly becoming a favorite amongst cowboys who taught him to ride upon and shared tales of cattle drives. As weeks passed, Sarah noticed Nathan seeking her out in the evenings, often joining her on the porch after William was asleep. He was unlike the man she'd imagined during her months of letters with Elijah. Those Messagesh had been polite and somewhat stiff. Nathan was direct and sincere. His hands wearoned by labor, his face weathered by years under the Montana sun. But his eyes shelled a warmth that quickened Sarah's pulse. "Why haven't you ever married?" she asked it one evening as they watched the sunset tint distant peaks in hues of violet and gold. Nathan was silent for a long moment. "I came close once. Her name was Catherine. Shedded of fever before we could marry." Hepaused his fingers, drumming thoughtfully on porch rail. "After that, I poured myself into building Oakidge. Didn't look up for years. It seems Sarah understood loss too well. She shared about her late husband, Matthew, a gentle man taken by pneumonia when William was only 6 months old, leaving her to survive in a harsh city. "Is that why you answered a mail-order bride ad?" Nathan asked. Sarah nodded. "I wanted a better life for William than I could give in Philadelphia, a new beginning somewhere else." She gazed over Oakidge's rolling pastures, now home in. "So little time. Now, I think maybe things happened as they were meant to." As autumn painted the cottonwood trees golden, Nathan began joining Sarah and William for meals. He carved a wooden horse for William and taught him to whistle. Sarah watched their interactions with growing warmth in her heart. William had never known a father's love, but the adoration in his eyes for Nathan showed that was changing. One crisp October morning, Nathan invited Sarah to ride to a ridge overlooking the ranch. William stayed with Mers, Porter, who promised to teach him to make apple dumplings. At the ridge's crest, Nathan halted his horse and dismounted, helping Sarah down from her mare. The view was stunning, the valley stretching before them, Oakidge nestled at its core like a gem. "I come here to reflect," Nathan said, his voice soft against the autumn breeze, gentle whisper, "to remind myself what's important." Sarah pulled her shawl closer, waiting. "Sarah," Nathan began, turning to her, "when you arrived in Cottonwood Springs, I thought I was just aiding a woman in need. I didn't expect." He paused, searching for words. "I didn't expect to find a family I didn't know I needed." Sarah's breath caught. "I know this isn't what you came west for," Nathan continued. "You sought security. After for William, I'm hoping you might consider me for that role, not as your employer, but as your husband, if you'll have him." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "Nathan, I love William like he's my own," he said earnestly. "And I've come to love his mother just as deeply." Sarah stepped closer, placing her hand on his weathered cheek. "What started as necessity has become the greatest gift of my life." "Yes, Nathan, yes." The wedding was held in the town church, with William proudly bearing the rings on a small pillow. Mrs. Porter cried openly from the front pew, and the ranch hands, dressed in their Sunday finest, filled the small church with hearty cheers when the minister declared Nathan and Sarah husband and wife. That evening, after William was tucked into bed in their new family home, Nathan found Sarah on the porch, gazing at the stars blanketing the Montana sky. "Any regrets?" he asked, slipping his arm around her waist. Sarah leaned into his embrace. "Only that I spent so much time writing to the wrong man," Nathan chuckled, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I'd say it all turned out just right. Elijah Pearson did us both a favor." As the moon rose over Oakidge Ranch, Sarah Baker Hayes offered a silent prayer of thanks for a journey that began in rejection, but ended in the most perfect homecoming she could have dreamed.